excited to welcome all of you to our eTeaching Luncheon today, incorporating digital materials into your courses. I'm Beth Clark, the Director of Instructional Design and eTeaching Services, and I'm so pleased that you could all join us for today's event. For those of you who came in just a few minutes after 12, there's now new food in the back of the room, so feel free to go get some, go get seconds. We have plenty of food for you, so do enjoy that on a nice rainy day. We brought this eTeaching Luncheon together because of the various things that have been happening in the digital world. As you know, digital materials have kind of exploded, and my group, Instructional Design and eTeaching Services, has been working with both the BC libraries and the BC bookstores to really explore what are all those services and how can we bring them together in a way that makes sense for faculty and students. And so that's what we wanted to really talk about today, was really some of those advancements in digital materials and how you can use them for your work with students, and then how we've tried to incorporate them into the learning management system, Blackboard Vista. So we're going to go through the panel discussion today. There will be 5 different presenters. They're all going to speak for about 10 minutes each. And I would ask that the audience just hold questions until after the panelists have done their presentations. And we'll have about 20 minutes for questions and answers. I also wanted to, before we do get started, I wanted to say a big thank you to my collaborators in organizing this. Jeannie Poe, the Associate Director for Instructional Design and eTeaching Services, Christina Joy, the Manager of Administrative Services, and Helen Healy, the Manager of Learning Technologies, all helped to put this day together, this afternoon together. So a warm thank you to all of them for their very wonderful assistance. And so without further ado, and I'm just going to introduce what we'll be doing today on the panel. We have 5 folks up here, if I counted correctly. Yeah, I think I did. 2 from the BC libraries. And we have a vendor in from Xanadu, and I'll introduce what that is as we get to Xanadu. It doesn't have anything to do with the movie. No roller skates, no Olivia Newton-John. We also have representatives from the BC Bookstore and from Instructional Design and eTeaching Services. So we're going to start off the day with Margie Battaglia, who's the head of Access Services at the BC Bookstore. I'm sorry, BC Libraries. I'm looking at you and thinking bookstore. So Margie, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Beth. And I am in O'Neill Library, not the bookstore. So that's right. I'm the head of Access Services, as Beth said, and that's the department in O'Neill Library where eReserves resides. Today I'm going to speak not only about O'Neill Library, but about all of our libraries and the services that we offer. And what I want to do is briefly go over what we do to support your teaching in eReserves, describe the methods that we use to get your citations and your readings to digital content, and what the results look like. And I guess the first question that I asked myself when Jeannie asked me to speak today was, why would you use library course reserves when you have a Blackboard site? And the library eReserves, that we called it from the beginning, has been around a lot longer than Blackboard Vista. And so I know a lot of you are used to using course reserves, but there's other reasons for doing it as well. And there's 3 of them right now that we usually bring up in the library when a faculty member asks us. The first one is that we organize all of your readings in one spot, and that would include books as well as digital content. We provide links in one spot. We handle your copyright issues as well. There's sort of a safe haven if you go through the libraries, because we do pay attention to fair use, and if there are problems, we can steer you to the University Council or to our in-house people that deal with copyright. And most importantly, probably from your perspective, is that we do most of the work for you. You give us your syllabus or your course list, and we take it from there for you. But before I show you what we actually do in-house, I know you're eating, but can I have a show of hands if people have used course reserves? Just raise your hand. Okay. A fair number. And have ever used it? Same group, or these are ones using it this semester? Okay. Yeah, hands are going up. Okay. Sorry. Before I came over this morning, I counted how many courses we're maintaining in the libraries, and this includes all libraries, including the law school. We are maintaining 780 courses throughout the libraries for individual faculty. Probably about 99% of those courses have digital content, and many of them have only digital content. We have very few classes anymore that have only books. Most people mix it up with books and digital content, or just digital content. There are approximately 1,400 Blackboard courses this semester that are up. One of the things we don't know that we're trying to get more information on is how many of those Blackboard sites have a e-reserves link from the libraries. We know that we do 780. We don't know how much they intersect right now. Helen is working on a widget that will get us that information in the future, and that will be very helpful for our planning. So how does course reserves work? Those of you that have used our service, you know that you give us a syllabus or you complete an online form on the library's website. And on there, it asks you on the form whether you have a Blackboard Vista site. And if you say yes, at the end of the process, we have been sending a link to the URL for your digital content over to you. And you insert that into your course or to the iSpokes. That process will change, and Helen will talk about that a little. We have developed a protocol that we will no longer send you that URL. But how do we turn your content into digital content? So what I want to do is log on to our website, if I remember how to do it. Well, that didn't work. Oh, I love eTeaching. Beth must have done that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just look at our course reserves. I'm sure many of you have looked at this. This is what the student would see. And you have to log in to this with your username, password. And I created a course for us to look at today, and included different types of, I'm a PC user in a Mac world here.
There's an app for that.
Yeah, I gotta get rid of it. Okay, so I created this course that has 7 items linked to it. You can see other people have many more things on their courses than I do. So what we do when we get your citation or your syllabus is we want to get the best available copy that we can. And what we look for, first of all, what we prefer is a direct link to an online database or to an online journal, because it gives the best copy for your students to use. So what I've got up here, the first one, in Sweden, men have it all. We know that. We want to click here. I don't know what that means. This is one that's going to the New York Times. And so it's and I wanted to tell you, some of these are, all of them are things that maybe somebody out in the audience has put up on their reserve site. So if you see something you put up, it's because I've just stolen it. So this is a direct link. It's in color. It's beautiful. And that's our preferred way of relaying a digital content for your course. But if you go back to the second one I have is a gender. This one is another one where we had a citation for an article. This one, students are frustrated with this too. How do I? Sorry. Maybe you should do this. Okay, this is a downloaded PDF from one of our online journals, and this one is also in perfect condition and something that, whoops, wrong place, something that your students could easily read or print off if they wanted to. But then, if we can't find the content in something that we own that's online, we go to our physical collection and scan it. So, what is this? I need Jeannie here to work this for me. Sorry. So I just wanted to show you one that's that we scanned that is not the best looking. See, this is obviously I didn't practice this today. Stay right here. Yeah, stay here. Don't go. Oops. I told you I'm a PC.
You talk and I'll try.
Okay, great. That's good. This one is a little different because you can see the quality is not as good, but this is something that we scanned on scanners in the library, and so you can see that we prefer the online content because it's actually a much better product. What we're going to talk about today, and Jonas is going to talk about, are ebooks. And so we are starting to link to ebooks if you go there. Extreme Pursuits. Extreme Pursuits. Boy. Okay, this is an ebook, and Jonas will talk a little more about the issues involved with the library purchasing ebooks, but we are beginning to link to them from your course reserves. So, that's it, I'm all set. So how do students access course reserves? It turns, I know, mostly in a variety of ways. I have 10 minutes, but my technical difficulties. Anyway, I just wanted to show you what we do with your citations, and we are working on a prototype with guides that will make it easier for you to add the library content into your Vista course, your Blackboard course with a content link or power link, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to be using some focus groups in the future to see what other kinds of library content you would like to see in your Blackboard site. So that kind of wraps up my part today, and thank you. And Jonas will take over, and I'm going to sit over here and watch the rest of it.
Good afternoon. I'm hoping to be able to navigate this. Another PC person, so. All right. What I thought we would do is just go over a few basic facts about what we already have to make sure that you're comfortable with identifying ebooks that are already in the collection. And for some of these examples, they've been around for a few years. For example, the library now has ebook collections that give you nearly everything published up to 1800 or 1820 in the UK and the United States. And that's not just of interest to history or English literature. you got to remember, this is everything that was published. So it may be of interest to other subject areas, theology, philosophy, fine arts, because there's an enormous amount of information across the subjects. The other kinds of things that we've been getting are collections of standard reference works, and here the example is Cambridge Collections Online. Also, Blackwell has a series of reference books. You may have used individual volumes and referred your students to them. Going back to Cambridge, it's the Cambridge Companions, and these are incredibly valuable because they would be devoted to a single thinker or a single period of history, a single movement. The ACLS Humanities ebook project started as a history ebook project, but has expanded to be humanities. And I encourage you, if you haven't, if you're in the humanities, that you give this a look. And I see. Okay, I'm going to stick with this. I won't click on anything. Let you use your imagination. But if you go to the ACLS Humanities eBook project, there are different ways of browsing, doing full text searches, identifying material that could be useful to your students. You can point to chapters, books, etc. And then you saw an example from eBrary, this particular one that I mentioned here, the Black Experience in the Civil War South, was just another example of eBrary material. I'll say a few more words about eBrary in a minute. And then there's the free ebook collections that we are pointing to through our new, using our new search interface, the Holmes One Search. You will not necessarily find many of these using Quest, but if you were to do searches in One Search, you're going to come up with potentially items that we have bought from Hathi Trust, which is basically a group of research libraries that have begun to ingest their digitized books into a single server or linking to it, and it's University of Michigan based, and we put in the University of Michigan's collection of ebooks, clearly pre-23 for copyright purposes, and I think that's in the millions right there, so an excellent source, and you may come across it. Free, multiple users, no problem using them. How you can find them, I mentioned Holmes One Search. It will clearly say online. There'll be an online access. Quest, if you search Quest in the advanced search, you'll notice that there's an ebooks limiter that you can use under the types, formats of materials. Research guides have plenty of references to ebooks. You can even search all of the research guides. There's a search box. Just put in ebook and you'll find a lot of mention, or go to specific research guides in your subject area and you'll find listings, links to ebooks. If you go to the subject portals and the library homepage, that's under research guides under the search box. Let me see if I can make that work. Yeah, there it is. If, let's say if you were in the library's homepage and it's right there and you just go here, and for example, I know chemistry's been getting a lot of ebooks. This is one way of keeping up. Just look on the list and you'll see internet. There's a lot of ebooks coming in. And a few words about that in a second. How do I minimize this? Let's just do it. Command tab. Okay, great, thanks. And last but not least, your friendly subject librarian, by all means, contact us. It's probably the easiest, quickest way to do this, unless you really love to fish around, stumble around on the web to find these things. Okay, so what's available for us to be purchasing? I have to start out by saying that our world is different from the public library world. If you belong to the public library, perhaps you've been using Overdrive. It works, it's clunky, but it's available, and there are all kinds of problems involved with that. What the academic libraries have been doing are purchasing collections of ebooks, and also making them available title by title for purchase either by, well, I'll say more about that, but these are places that you can go to the eBrary site. You can just do a Google search for eBrary, also do a Google search for Wiley Online Library. It's just another example. Your catalogs of publishers, another example, Cambridge University Press, will have an online portion of it. And Global Books in Print, you can limit to ebooks in Global Books in Print if you use that. Okay, as it says, they're cute. My son gave me the latest Kindle. But page citations, they're beginning to deal with that, but it's still a bit hazy. Will you be able to get the books that you want in Kindle? Not all publishers participate. It's not PDF, which is kind of a standard. Although some of them can read PDF, it's not always very neat. So, but the vendors we're dealing with know that there is a pressure from the market, the academic market, to to eventually get these ebooks e-reader friendly, or work with the e-reader manufacturers somehow to make them more friendly for students. Okay, before we can buy something, we have to go through a whole number of a checklist. They don't have to meet every single thing on the checklist, but some are pretty important. There was a vendor that would only permit, like maybe 5 pages or something like that of printing and no more. We like to see something like 20%. Some will even allow you to print more or copy. It's got to have good image quality. It's got to be available, or we hope it's available for course reserves, that it's perpetual access, we're paying good money, and that we will have it. And there are services that are springing up or offering their current capacity to provide perpetual access, so we're looking into that. In other words, will we still have access to these things 50 years, 100 years down the line? Campus-wide access. So far, a lot of publishers are really reluctant to allow more than one user at a time. They're still, glued to that print model. Journals have come a long way. That has multiple user access. Books, not always. Some do. And that's covered under the next one too. So, is there proprietary software needed? And if it is, how difficult is it to use, to read? Hopefully, the material is easily accessible. Formats available. We like to see PDF. That's such a standard. Discoverability. That's a term we're using in the library. How easy is it to find? Are we making it available through something like Holmes? And then bookmarking, note-taking, highlighting. Are those available as features? We can do a user directly by the user. We're experimenting with that. There's an ebook task force that's looking at these various models in the library. So we have been playing with this. Interestingly, a number of theology books. That's one of the larger segments of the books that have been bought directly through the catalog. That subject area has been well represented by the people who are purchasing. Okay, I'll wind up. And then library staff are ordering, and the Elsevier model, Springer model. In other words, there are a lot of pricing models that are out there. And I'm going to just skip through this. There are a lot of concerns. Offline access, for example, is not always available. You got to be in a Wi-Fi place. We are trying to assess it, the usage, and you may have seen the little poll that we had in the beginning of the semester and taken part in it. The results were that yes, most people would still skip an ebook and take the print, but it's interesting to see that people are using it in different ways. So it's a growth area for sure, but nevertheless, there's always the nostalgia factor.
So I want to thank so from the BC Libraries, we're going to move over to the bookstore and begin with Lindsay Warren, who works with Xanadu, is one of the vendors that the bookstore works with, and Xanadu provides online course packs. A number of faculty have used course packs over the years, and we're moving to a model that is a digital model, and we're moving to one where the digital model can then be incorporated into Blackboard Vista. So we'll talk about that after, and we have Lindsay and then David Werda present from the bookstore. So Lindsay, the floor is all yours.
So my name's Lindsay Warren. I'm with Xanadu Custom Publishing. I'm also a very recent Boston College graduate. I got my master's here in English, and so I'm so glad to be back. And as Beth mentioned, we have partnered with the Boston College Bookstore. We're now trying to offer all of our course packs in both the print version and an online version, which will provide not only a cost savings for students, but the option to include more media and a more diverse set of content. A little bit about Xanadu. We don't have anything to do with the movie. I am sorry about that. But we work with over 1,000 schools across the country. We do course packs, but we really specialize in the digital or the e-course pack. You know, we were the first company to do that. We started it in 2000. And we're still kind of leading the way by trying to give it a more enhanced set of features. So we are integrating with learning management systems like Blackboard, and we've also developed an iPad app for students to, access their materials on the go, on handheld devices. So you might be asking yourself, well, what is an e-course pack, or what is a digital course pack? And this is what your students will see if they do purchase one. And the way that they have access to it is they purchase an access code through the bookstore, and they will either go to the Xanadu website, or once we're integrated with Blackboard Vista, they'll simply go to their Blackboard site. They'll enter the access code, which will give them access to the course pack. They have access to it from any internet connection, and they can print it out as well if they would like. And it's simply a series of links, and you can see we've got traditional readings like business cases, like interviews. We've also got streaming video and spreadsheets, so you can include a lot more interactive material in it as opposed to kind of just the paper. So, this is a really exciting time for the BC Bookstore to be partnering with Xanadu, because for all course packs that we're doing after July 1st of this year, we're really giving a boost to the functionality and the ease of use of our web course packs. So in addition to being able to access their course pack online from any internet connection, in addition to being able to print it out, students can now download it to their desktop, so they have access to it offline as well. And students will also be able to annotate, take notes, highlight right on the screen, so they won't even necessarily need to print it out. So it's totally green. They're also going to have collaboration features, so if students have been put into teams or put into groups, they can import and export each other's notes, and it really makes that process of working together a lot more seamless. And all of the web course packs are going to come standard with an EPUB version of the course pack for use in the Xanadu iPad app, or you could also use it in something like iBooks or iAnnotate. But we've developed our own iPad app, and the app is free, so students don't need to pay extra for that. The version is going to come directly with the digital course pack, so it's still going to be very cost effective. It has the same kind of functionality of the web course packs. We've got annotating, highlighting, air printing, collaboration. It's not simply kind of a flat PDF on an iPad. It's very interactive. I actually have my iPad with me if anyone after the presentation wants to come play with it, wants to come see what does the course pack look like, how does it work. I'm happy to show you. And so after July 1st, if your course starts after July 1st, your students will be getting all of this. So in addition to the kind of standard readings that you typically put in a course pack, like articles or newspaper clippings or anything like that, you can also include a lot more interactive media. So if you want to include all of the PowerPoints from your lectures, if you want to include interactive polls, if you teach in a foreign language program, you can include listening exercises, either ones that you've collected from various textbooks or ones that you have recorded yourself. You can give your students access to full color images without having to pay for full color printing, which is very nice. If you teach in an English program, you can give students a poem, and you can also give students an audio version of the author reading the poem. And in addition to this kind of more standard set of media, we also offer a more specific set that appeals directly to instructors teaching in the business school. So Harvard and Darden both have video cases that can go with their printed. We've partnered with a company called Experience Point that we are allowed to use all of their simulations in course packs, kind of those interactive decision-making games. We also have what we call course pack extras, which they are pre-formatted spreadsheets that are populated with the exhibits from Harvard's top cases, and typically it's finance and accounting. So if you teach in a finance and accounting program, you definitely will want to learn more about those. We've gotten really positive reviews about them. And they come free with the case, which is nice. So you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but where do I find this? Where do I find these things? We have a database. All faculty members who work with us have access to it. It contains over 20,000 full text items. So we've got cases and articles from all the major business publishers. And we've also got anything that we've ever put into a Xanadu course pack. So again, we work with 1,400 universities, and we've been doing this for 10 years. So we have a lot of material. And it's searchable. You can read it full text. So if you're looking to add new content to your courses, it's a great place to go. So the ordering process is very simple. We have partnered with the BC Bookstore, so simply submit a list of all the readings and items you want to Mike Riley at the BC Bookstore. I've included an order form in that packet that you got. It's got all of Mike's information on it. Or if you want to send it to me, I'd be happy to forward it on to Mike for you. And if you have questions, I will be available after the presentation. And also, if you'd like me to come to your office hours, give you access to the database, show you how to search, show you more about the iPad app, I'm happy to do that. I have a sign-up sheet if you want to just come see me after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. That was wonderful. And our next presenter from the BC Bookstore is David Huerta, the Assistant Director of the bookstore, and he's going to talk to us about e-texts.
Good afternoon. So, as Lindsay was talking about digital course packs, I just wanted to kind of step back and take a minute to kind of paint a big, broad picture of what the bookstore is, what the bookstore provides, how Xanadu fits into that. Back in 2008, in August of 2008, the Boston College Bookstore formed a partnership, or Boston College formed a partnership with the Fallout Corporation to provide bookstore operations. Part of that partnership, or part of that agreement, was that we would continue to provide course pack services and further the effort of ebooks, of digital textbooks. And so we've done that for the past several years, and those two things have somewhat collided this past spring. We had a small pilot group of about 5 course packs that we partnered with Xanadu to provide those not only in print but as well as in digital. And the pilot was successful, and so as Lindsay said, we're continuing that partnership with some excellent features and benefits from Xanadu for those digital course packs, as well as being able to integrate those into Blackboard Vista here at Boston College. So that's the digital course pack side of things. The e-book, or the digital textbook side of things, is a different solution. In 2004, or in 2007, Follett Corporation acquired a company called 1440, specifically for a product that they had developed called Cafe Scribe. Cafe Scribe essentially was developed in 2004, and from 2007 through now, Follett has worked with Cafe Scribe to continue to partner with publishers to get more digital content and to work with software developers to further that technology. Through those partnerships with our publishers, we've learned a couple of things. And one of the things that we've learned is the content is there. In this day and age, the technology is able to digitize content fairly easily. But what drives that availability is the demand that you folks put on it. So if you are on Cafe Scribe, if you're looking to utilize a digital textbook or your course materials in a digital format, and it doesn't look like that's readily available in that digital format, our role as the bookstore is for you to partner with us so we can partner back with those publishers to get that content available digitally. So this is just an illustration essentially of what Cafe Scribe is. It's really right now, as it's currently constituted, it's two components. It's a MyScribe e-reader, which you download for free onto your device, whether that's your PC or your MacBook or your netbook. You download that to your device, and that's where you are able to manage your digital content, your digital textbook. That's what allows you to do your highlighting and your note-taking in the margins. The other piece of this, the second piece of this, is the Cafe Scribe website itself. And Cafe Scribe is really a social networking site that meets digital textbooks. It's allowing collaboration and group forming, sort of like what Lindsay was referring to with Xanadu and where digital course packs are going. That this content is available digitally, but the real beauty of it is that you can form these virtual study groups, that you can have collaboration from here on this campus to anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world for that matter. I say currently constituted because in June there will be a new version of Cafe Scribe that will get rolled out. Again, partnering with those software developers, we continue to advance the technology. So in June there's a new version that's going to be rolled out, and that is going to sort of merge some of these things. The MyScribe reader and Cafe Scribe will sort of become one, more of a browser-based format. Again, it'll just advance that technology. So if we could kind of just take a look at the nuts and bolts, or in this case, the dollars and cents of digital textbooks, the bookstore is extremely sensitive and aware of the rising cost of course materials and how that impacts what your students buy and the value that they put on those course materials that they buy. This past fall, we rolled out a text rental program that real quickly was, by all means, a great success for us. We rented over 30,000 textbooks here alone on this campus. Those textbooks save students at least 50% off the new book price. And that was a rental model. They used those books for the semester. At the end of the semester, they checked them back in. As far as a digital textbook goes, the price is, on average, anywhere from a 40 to a 60% savings over the new book print price. So again, it's just the emphasis on value and where students are spending their money. Financial aid, because this is a product or a service that the bookstore here at Boston College is able to offer, any tender type that's available to your students, whether that be textbooks, scholarships, Eagle Bucks, any of those things, they can use to purchase a Cafe Scribe digital textbook. It's device agnostic, so it isn't just a device, it isn't just a platform. You don't need a Nook, you don't need an iPad, you don't need any of those things. All you need is your computer, your desktop, your netbook, whatever device it is that you have. One of the other things that we're also sensitive to at the bookstore is the idea of the ad drop, the university ad drop period, going into a class that you're not quite sure you're going to stay in, purchasing those textbooks for that class so that if you do stay in it, you don't fall behind, and then having to return those textbooks if you decide you're not going to stay in that class. Digital textbooks, the Cafe Scribe model, the return policy is the same. It's a 7-class day period from the start of the term, which is essentially that university ad drop period. But there's also this feature of try now, buy later, which is great for students, but it's great for you as faculty members as well. There's no credit card needed. You don't need to put in a payment type that's automatically going to be charged to you when those 7 days are up. You get the full version of the book. It isn't just a sample. You know, a lot of times when you're on the internet and you're looking at ebooks, you get a sample of that book. This is the full version of it with the full functionality, the note-taking, the highlighting, the auto-summary, the collaboration, all of those things in that 7-day period. If you decide you want to buy it within that 7-day period, all of those things that you worked on stay. You don't lose those things. You don't start fresh from the beginning. They're yours. You've worked on them. So, technology. New technology presents new challenges, but it also presents new opportunities. But we kind of know that if technology isn't easy to use, if it isn't intuitive, you're not going to use it unless it's something you absolutely have to use. I was watching 60 Minutes the other day, and Marty Cooper was on. Marty Cooper's 81 years old. He is essentially the father of the cell phone. 37 years ago, from some street corner in New York City, he placed the first cell phone call. 37 years ago. 37 years ago, there was no texting, there was no email, there was no internet 37 years ago. So in 37 years, the cell phone's come a long way. Or has it? If anybody's bought a cell phone recently, they know that the instruction manual for that cell phone is 2 or 3 times the size of that cell phone. Has anybody in here ever read the instruction manual for their cell phone? We sell books at the bookstore, very large books, specifically dedicated to how you use your cell phone, how you can maximize your cell phone. There's no instruction booklet for Cafe Scribe. We think that it's intuitive. We think that it's easy to use. It's taking a book off your bookshelf, your virtual bookshelf, opening it up, flipping through pages, bookmarking things, highlighting, writing in the margins, color coding your highlighting as if you would regular highlighting, auto-summarizing those things. It's easy to use. Because we do have text messaging and email, we live in this immediate gratification type of society, it's available immediately. It's a download. You're not placing an order online, waiting for that to ship, going somewhere to pick it up. You don't even have to come over to your bookstore to get that digital textbook. You can order it right online and download it right to your device. Right now, as it is today, we aren't able to integrate it into our LMS system here on campus, but that is the future. That is what we're working towards, is being able to do that. It doesn't expire. You own it. It's not a rental model, so that 40 to 60% savings, you consistently realize that. Whatever you take for notes, you have those for the life of that book, for as long as you have it. Technical support, it's the great 24/7 technical support that we continue to ramp up as we continue to build this platform. So real quick, again, some teaching effectiveness or how it impacts teaching effectiveness. You know, we know it's a book, you take it off the shelf, like I said, you can highlight in it digitally, you can type in it, you can share that information. But where it really takes off to the next level is the social networking aspect of it. It's sharing that information. It's forming study groups. It's having collaboration. It's being able to see where some professor at another school, at Georgetown, at Stanford, who's using the same course materials, what they're doing with it, what their students are using it for, that sort of thing. It's ADA compliant for our auditory learners, for the visually impaired. It has a read aloud aspect to it that reads back to you. And it's completely customizable. So you as a faculty member can customize it to give it more context, to provide notes, study questions, discussion points, web links, those sorts of things. If this sounds exciting, sounds like it's something you're interested in, late April, early May, we are going to host some Cafe Scribe web-based seminars to allow you to ask some specific questions, see how the content's being used. And if you are interested in it, like Lindsay said, I'll be available afterwards for questions. You can get my contact information, and I can send you those links so that you can participate in those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. So where do we fit into this? Where does instructional design and e-teaching services fit into this picture, and why did we bring everybody together? You just heard about some of the resources that the libraries and the bookstore are trying to bring to bear to faculty members who work with the students. Where we really come into the picture is with the learning management system. We have about 97% of all students on BC campus at any semester access their materials through Blackboard Vista. So they're using this environment. And so our role is really to try to make sure that those resources that the bookstore and the library are providing come together and can be put in one location so it's easy for you and it's easy for your students to access them. And so Helen Healy, who's standing back here, our manager for learning technologies has been working both with the libraries and the bookstore, as well as with our IT department to try to make these things possible for you. And so what Helen is going to show today is how you can link in your course reserves in an easy and seamless way, and how you can add the online course packs into Blackboard Vista. We are, as David said, trying to expand those services so that as things progress with Cafe Scribe, we hope to be able to add those in as well. But the goal is really to just make Blackboard Vista the place where students can find everything. They don't have to go to 5 different locations to get their materials. And I think, if you're using that resource, that's really what your goal is anyway, to just make those resources available and easy for students to access. So without further ado, I'm going to turn you over to Helen, and she'll show you what we've been able to build. And then after that, we'll take some time for questions and answers. We'll bring Margie and Jonas back up to the panel and just hear what you're thinking about as you've seen all of this.
So the first thing that I'm going to show you is adding the eReserves link to your site. So if you already have a Blackboard Vista site, you log into Blackboard at cms.bc.edu. And this is the course that I'm going to use to add my eReserves link. So what normally happens is you contact the library, again, like Margie said, you give them your syllabus, etc., and then they work on getting everything online for you. And basically what you then do is you click on Add Content Link. So we worked with the IT group in the O'Neill Library, with the central IT group over in St. Clements, and of course our group, and we came up with this, and click on Add Course Reserves. You give it a title, if I can spell it, and you click Save. And I think we just might have broken a world record there, so there we have it. If you're a student, you go in, you click, and there it is. Okay, so again, you go through, you work with the library, they'll get all the materials together, and then in Blackboard Vista, it's simply under the Build tab as an instructor, add content link, and then the library reserves. And really all you have to do is come up with a title. So that's that. And then the other one that I wanted to show you is the integration if you wanted to add a course pack. So if you choose to add a course pack to your site, you work again with the bookstore, and you get a link. So you get a link that you can add to Blackboard Vista, and that's where the students can enter in, and I'll show you in a minute. They have a certain key, a number, that they can add in and gain access to the materials online. So first of all, I'm going to just find the link. So here's a sample of a link that you would get. Okay, so you highlight it. And then come in here. And you're going to add a file. You're going to go Create File. And again, give it a title. So course pack. And we're going to turn on the HTML editor. So because the link is in HTML, we're going to turn on the editor. So you click here, second, and then it pulls up. It looks like Word, really. It's just an easy way of typing in something that will look like HTML when you've saved it. And here we're just going to click on Source View. Because in here, by default, they give you this extra code, so we don't want that. But thank you. I'm going to work that out. And hopefully, so in here you would paste in your link. So what I'm going to do is here, and then this is what you have. So for the student, come in here, they click here, and this is where they enter their key, and then all the materials is brought up, as Lindsay showed earlier with course ePack looks like. So again, it's just adding a file, you're taking a link, and you're adding it in through an HTML editor. And we will work on making this hopefully more seamless. But if you have any questions, again, Instructional Design eTeaching Services is there to help you, to walk you through it. All right, thank you.
And if we could just have Jonas join us again at the front. And just to let the instructors know, we have created little digital tutorials of both those processes. So if once you leave here, if you forget how to do that, you'll find those tutorials online. And you're always welcome to ask us for help as well. We're happy to come to your office and show you how to do that. So now it's time for Q&A. So I'm going to go over and sit down with these folks. And I'm eager to hear what people have, what questions there are. So, we'll start over this way and we'll go around that way.
Two questions. For course packs or materials, often it's not stuff that you get from the web or articles and they're unedited. Usually, I know in my world, we edit stuff down considerably and then we put it into our own Word format. First question is, I'm assuming that the Xanadu and Cafe Scribe is amenable to that, our manipulation of the information and putting it into edited form. And then secondly, a little fuzzy, the difference between Cafe Scribe and Xanadu.
Sure. Well, one thing about both Cafe Scribe and what we're offering at Xanadu is that it doesn't have to exist in a certain format. We kind of take whatever you give us and we turn it into that PDF file. We turn it into an EPUB file for use on the iPad. So it really is very customizable. It doesn't have to exist in a certain format. You give it to us and we format it and we give it the highlighting and the annotating capability as well.
And so the difference between Cafe Scribe and Xanadu is that Xanadu is the course pack provider, whereas Cafe Scribe is that ebook, the digital version of the textbook.
I'm sorry, I'm still missing it. They're both on the computer, both pull them off. I feel like I just have some really important.
So a course pack being a series of different things that you pull together that you want to put into one thing that in the past has been something that we've printed, bound, and sold at the bookstore. And so now we're making that available digitally. And so the Cafe Scribe is an existing textbook that a publisher has published.
But can't I just upload that onto Blackboard Vista as a PDF file or boom, it's digital? I mean, we don't all be bells and whistles highlighting.
Well, the reason why you wouldn't do that is because doing that on Blackboard Vista sort of exposes you because unless you're clearing the copyrights, students technically need to, if it's got a copyright on it, students should be paying the royalty. And so what Xanadu does is we clear all of that for you and we indemnify you and we indemnify BC. So if there is any kind of error or anyone finds any kind of fault with the file or what we've done with it, you're all completely protected and Xanadu would get in trouble. So it's a much safer space for that, whereas putting it on Blackboard kind of opens you up to a little bit of vulnerability.
And I'll just jump in here because this is really where the two worlds come together, the bookstore and the libraries and the work that they've been doing because, when you bring your syllabus to the library, and Margie and Jonas may want to jump in here too, when you bring your syllabus to the library.
Oh, yes, we do offer that. Right now for the bookstore, we are looking to sort of do the kind of choice model because the digital offers a nice cost savings for students, but it is something that we could potentially look into on a case-by-case basis, but Xanadu, we do the digital plus print sort of model where students have it all printed out and they've also got access to it from any internet connection. And the second question, once we sort of set the course pack, it needs to stay the way it is. And the reason for that is because, again, of the royalties and the payments. So we wouldn't want to have the professor remove something that a student has already paid for. And in the same way that we couldn't necessarily add something that a student then hasn't paid for. So we do like to see sort of a complete syllabus in advance. But, if you do have, things that you want to hide, for example, we can do a time release function. So if you have a midterm or a final, you say, I want this to become available only the last week of class, we can do that for you. So it can be kind of customizable in that way. Or, we can simply just sort of do a little bit of an add-on course pack for you. Just sort of
be a criteria that we would look at and hope that they would be able to provide the kind of linkage that would provide citation information for us as easily as possible.
But I guess I was wondering about our relationship with reference more long term. I hate it, and I don't think it's very useful. And I use the Vero open source that could aid students in a lot of ways. And I was wondering, I don't know.
We should talk.
Piggybacks on the reference. For example, on a student's perspective, if you're doing research and you're collecting e-books and you're collecting e-journals or e-services, is there a way the student can probably export their list of resources or sources into some sort of an APA format, MLA, to create a reference list?
So just to repeat the questions, I'm not sure if everybody in the back heard that. The question is really around citation management with all of these resources. Is there a capability of bringing them all together and then printing out something in the proper citation format? Is that, did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Short answer is yes, but there are a variety of ways of inputting the information, and of course we always hope we're dealing with online resources that can do it automatically through some kind of export, but you can always also manually input, and then when you're ready to print out or produce a bibliography, there are literally hundreds of citation styles, including APA, MLA, etc.
All of our course packs come with a bibliography, so you can see exactly what is in the course pack. It's got all the standard citation information, like page number, publisher, so you've got all of the information there. We don't specifically have any kind of tool that will export it or shape it into an APA or an MLA model, but all the information is there. So if you wanted to input that into something like RefWorks or something, I'm sure that would work well together.
If I can squeeze in two questions. When we're doing books on reserve at the library, is there a limit to the number of chapters that can you put in reserve for a particular course, or could you like put the entire book on reserve? And then my second question is, when we do cases, like a Harvard case, do Xanadu, what would be the difference in price roughly between that and say a printed copy going in, printed course pack for BC case?
Let me answer the chapter question first. We limit ourselves to 2 chapters per book at all of our libraries, and if you need more than that, we can stagger it throughout the semester, take some down, put another one up, but we cannot put the whole book up at one time.
Okay. And for the Harvard cases, we, in addition to providing web course packs, we are also clearing all of the copyrights for even the print course packs, because we provide 100% copyright clearance. We indemnify the school, so we're in charge of all copyright clearance. So in terms of royalty, there is no difference between what you would pay for print and what you would pay for digital. The difference is with print, you're adding on just a couple dollars for the actual production.
If you don't allow like laptops in class, how can the students access the textbooks if they don't have a computer as big costs? Can they print it out or something?
Yeah, I think the question is really around the printing aspects for the books, for all of the resources. So I don't know if you want to speak to those individually.
Yeah, as far as Cafe Scribe goes, you can print the book. We were having a conversation earlier that the whole, not necessarily the concept, but the whole idea of digital textbooks is not just this static PDF, but some other collaborative efforts. So if you're not able to use it in the classroom, if you're not able to access it in the classroom, you're certainly not getting the most functionality out of it. But there is a print aspect to it, so you could print pages to bring to class.
And the same with the course packs. For a digital-only course pack, you can print it up to 5 times. So you need a lot of
Yeah.
I have one other question. With the Cafe Scribe and books and making notes and connecting highlights and so forth, could you export that into some sort of a Word document?
When when you auto summarize your notes, your highlighted notes, you can then put it into a PDF and print it.
I think I saw a question in the back. No? Is it gone? Here. Yeah.
Back on the printing, in the limit, what I discovered is if you put something up electronic and you think it's going to be all green, it turns out to be pretty much white and black. And students end up printing it. And that's actually been one of the motivations for using course packs. Because the course pack, putting aside the issue of getting clearances, okay? Put that aside for a moment. The big problem is in this transformation from print to electronic, is when you put it up electronic, students want to print it. Then they run into the 500-page, 500 hours that it takes them to print it all. So that gets us back to, since we don't know where the crossover point is between print and technology, we like to think it would be all green, but it really isn't. That causes all sorts of problems on campus for backlogs and printing. It's a real major problem for students. And then it drives up the cost significantly for students, both in terms of their time and whatever. So I'm a little confused as to what we mean when we just say they can print it. Because they will print it.
Well, with course packs at least, they do have that option of purchasing a fully printed course pack. So if a student says, I'm not as tech savvy as some of my peers, I want to have this printed, they've got that option right there. And then for students who do purchase the digital, we're bringing kind of a new functionality to that. So something that BC students haven't been exposed to in the past is not having to print it out to be able to take notes, to be able to manipulate it and work with it in class. So that's something that we're bringing. So students really don't need to print it unless they're not particularly comfortable with technology, in which case they could just purchase the print.
And I do think, Peter, that it's a good question. I don't know if the library wants to speak at all to the whole print management aspect of things, because I know it's been a bear of a question for a long time. But we are in a transition point with these materials, and not everybody is comfortable reading things online or all online. I think that it shifts over time, but it takes a long time to make that shift. And so we'll have to grapple with that question around printing for a good while to come. I think the point here is that this just opens up the options for students. They have the option of reading things online or looking at things online or bringing their laptop or mobile device to class and being able to interact with that material in a classroom environment without having to drag all their books to class. But also, I think some of the points that David and Lindsay were making about the types of materials that you can build into the online course books and the e-texts, you just have a lot more options in terms of what type of materials you blend together for students to really dive into. So, Margie or Eunice, I don't know, do you want to speak to the print question, or would you like to defer that?
Well, I can't speak to the print question for the whole university, but we do know in the libraries that we have this digital content, and they go right from the PC or the Mac over to the print station and print it out. And complain constantly that the limit on printing is too low, and they need more included in their tuition. And so they're just printing out thousands and thousands, and we have each year more and more printing instead of less.
We've gone double-sided though.
Yeah, we've gone double-sided.
And I think the issue with having students print things out themselves versus buying the printed course pack comes again to a cost factor. So if students, have the money that they can purchase the print, they can do that. But if they say, I'm a little tight on money, or I, am on a fellowship, or someone else is purchasing my course materials, like your department or your athletic team, they always want you to go for the lowest you can and the lowest you can afford. So students, if they choose to purchase the digital and then print it out themselves, it's a way for them to save money, if that's what their situation requires.
Yeah, go ahead.
This question is for Helen. In the links the faculty would add for students to access a course pack or e-services, is there a cost for students?
Yeah, well, for the e-reserves, no. But for course pack, they purchase, they go through the bookstore.
Or they will need the access code or textbooks.
There's no additional cost for them to access it through Blackboard versus just on the web. So.
Yeah, I think the point is just to bring all of those resources together into one central location for students. And with the, just to go back to what Helen was demonstrating with the online course reserves, you add that into your course as you would any other aspect of Blackboard Vista, and then students access that without having to go to the library website or re-authenticate. It's all located there in their site so that they can have it whenever they need it. And they don't have to pay for it. So with the course packs, they enter their key after they paid for the course pack once, and then they'll always be able to access those materials. And it's easy for the faculty member to add it. With the course reserves, you don't have to add in anything other than that little widget. It figures out, it connects the fact that you're teaching, EN 101, section 01, and gets that appropriate online course reserve material for you, and the same with the link that you get from Xanadu for the online course packs. So you don't have to do too much work there figuring things out, just semester to semester as your courses change.
Beth, I have a question.
A question from the panel.
Yes, I'm curious as to, for the bookstore, the percentage of ebooks that are being, textbooks that are being purchased versus the hardback.
So right now, the digital textbook is not taken off by any stretch of the imagination, but from this time last year to where we are today, it's enormous gains. But those gains, when you look at them isolated, it's very small.
We're up as a region. I'm the regional manager for Follett, and I'm up 400%.
But that 400% represents a very small number of ebooks.
You're talking on $50 million, we might be doing 100 grand. So, but that doesn't mean 2 years from now, that number could be several $1 million. I mean, rental, we did no rental at BC last year, and this year we'll do almost $750,000 in 1 year. So it's going to change.
And that being said, too, part of what drives the availability of the course materials that you're using today in a digital format is you wanting them in a digital format. Like I said, publishers, the technology is there. Publishers have that capability. One of the challenges that I heard from the library is publishers wanting to release more than one site license at a time, more than one usability at a time. Essentially, though, when it's bought from the bookstore, when it's bought, it's an individual license, it's an individual use. So they're far more eager to put that digital course material or that course material into digital format for a bookstore than they may necessarily be for a library. But again, it's you folks that drive it. If it's something that you want, something that you need, we can help you go and get that and make that available for you.
Yeah, one here. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was curious, is there any slowdown in the use of Adobe Media as far as security vulnerability? Is there any backing off from the users? I've heard several people say that PDFs were preferred format, but is there any issues that come up about that?
I think the question was around, is there any reduction in the use of the Adobe Reader for PDF format? And I don't know.
For journals, it's still the major way of looking at things that you can then quote. It remains. For books, they have their own readers and their own. Although in some cases, also books, depending on what package you're looking at. So it's still a major part.
I know that with our course packs, you can do all that highlighting and annotating in the free Adobe Reader, so you don't need Adobe Pro or anything like that. So I mean, we still definitely use it. We don't use it on the iPad, but on the computer, all you need is just the free downloadable Adobe Reader, and that gives you all of the functionality.
I think we have time for about 2 more questions, and I see 2 hands, maybe 3. Okay, go ahead.
Another 2-part question. Of all the different types of materials and sources of materials that faculty bring to you, what causes the most problems for getting copyright permission? The second part of the question is there any difference in getting permission what you can get permission on in paper versus electronic format.
Your first question was, I'm sorry.
What causes the most problems for getting copyright permissions?
Large portions of books, so copyright, if it's an out of print book, we can do the whole thing for you, no problem. If it is an in-print book, they typically more than 3 chapters, they say no, they'll cut you off. A lot of books will have a page limit. So if you're doing a course pack, it's best to pull material from a variety of different texts, different articles, different articles, all different things, because the publisher says if you're using 5 chapters of an 8-chapter book, why aren't you just buying my book? So that's the only thing. The other thing is a print right is different from a digital right, but we do digital course packs all the time, and it's very rare to run into a publisher that says you can't use it digitally. It's because it really is kind of the way of the future, and we do so much digital. A lot of other publishers do so much digital publishing. The copyright owners have really come around to say, we're losing sales. People aren't using our material because they can't use it digitally. So.
But you don't have any problem somebody who's bringing in articles from random popular magazines and journals and pages printed off the web and things like that?
That's fine.
Mike Riley is the course pack coordinator for the bookstore. Mike, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, or if you kind of...
There isn't any single type that's more difficult. It does, as Lindsay said, focus on quantity. If you attempt to use too much, the publishers will shut us down. The rights holders will shut us down. But we've had all kinds of exotic sources used and gotten permission. But you should also know that occasionally there are things that seem utterly ordinary and easy to get, and we never hear from the rights holder. So strangely, sometimes we don't get permission when you would expect it, but as a rule, and there's no way to predict that. As a rule, everything's, because of the background issue of getting some revenue, it's usually easy to get copyright for just about everything.
And mine is around accessibility for visually impaired students. So if I'm hearing you correctly, that the e-books,
Kathy Scribe, yeah.
and so that faculty who use the e-books automatically make it easier for visually impaired students to access the books. Is that correct?
So the Cafe Scribe has a read aloud component to it, so that it can read back the content on the page.
And what about Xanadu?
Currently, unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to say we don't. I can look into it a little bit more for you, but it doesn't have any kind of read aloud function because we are taking tons and we're always processing new material. It would be very difficult for us to to generate that, whereas Cafe Scribe has sort of a set list of textbooks, even though it is still very large. It would be difficult, but I would love to look into that if you'd like to give me your information and see sort of what are the resources that we offer.
Margie and Eunice, do you want to speak to that with the course reserves and the ebooks?
The course reserves are available for use. Our students that are vision impaired can use their own software, and they're readily, we've made them into a format that can be used with that.
It's certainly on our list of criteria. And some of the platforms are much more friendly in that perspective than others. Some of the providers of databases which allow access to articles will give you the ability to download MP3 readings of those articles, for example. So it varies from resource to resource.
But that's a very nice point about making the resources available to all students with the variety of needs that they have. So, and I think we just have one more question, and then we'll wrap things up. Did you still have a question?
Yeah. Yes, it was very similar
Okay.
about the ADA stuff, so that's a good follow-up. You mentioned that the e-textbooks did. I was curious, and it sounds like it was, if it's just like, is it like an MP3, a reading of it, or is it something that renders the text in a way that a screen reader or other types can read it as they want?
That's a great question. I don't know the specifics of how that reads back, but I can certainly find out for you.
Well, I want to thank all of you again for coming this afternoon, and the panelists will stay up here for a few minutes while everybody filters out. So if you have other questions, feel free to come on up and ask them, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks for coming.
Okay.